This is the first debate I can remember seeing that actually starts with an explanation of how the apologist sees God to be.
So when I say, as I'm going to in a second, I'm not going to avoid your question, but understand that I say it against the background of a religious recognition of our own inability to understand that which is infinitely greater than ourselves.
That's a refreshing answer. I wish there were more theists who acknowledged that when they speak of God, they really have little or no understanding of what the fuck they are talking about.
My thumbnail definition of what God is that God is the source of everything that exists, and God is someone, something with whom a human being can have a relationship, and that you can live your life in alignment with a godly purpose. But any definition that is greater than that is in some ways to traduce God, which is why, by the way, the title of Christopher's book is exactly right. God is not great. Because to say God is great or God is something is to put a definition on God, which we know from classical Jewish philosophy you ought not to do. So in fact, Christopher's exactly right, and we can wrap it up right now.
This definition does little to clarify the idea of God. What does it mean to say that God is someone? In what sense is God a person? I don't know what a person is, absent of a functioning brain of some kind.
Do you believe that the universe is constituted only by stuff, by material, or is there a mystery at the heart of things?
Well, what would there be other than stuff? If something isn't made out of stuff of some kind, then what the fuck would it even be? And what do you mean, a mystery at the heart of things? I often hear apologists and other woo merchants rhapsodize about mystery as though they think that there are not only things in the universe that we can't understand, but also as though there are things they don't want to be able to understand.
Do you believe that you are purely synapses, or is there something immaterial and eternal about you and those you love? Do you believe that things like love are just an epiphenomena of the way evolution has put us all together, or do you think there is something that in the fact that immaterial things like ideas and love and consciousness have such a profound influence on our lives that lead you to believe that the intangible can be at least as real or more real than the tangible?
Wolpe is awfully imprecise in his language here. The immaterial is not the same thing as the intangible. Light and heat are intangible, but they are not immaterial. At least not in the sense that Wolpe means. Wolpe also seems to think that consciousness, ideas, and love are immaterial, which is not only something I don't believe, it's not something I can even understand. What would it even mean for consciousness, ideas, and love to be something other than activities carried out by the brain? I presume he believes that consciousness is essentially the soul, but what the fuck is the soul? I suspect that Wolpe not only doesn't know or understand what the soul is, I don't think he really even wants to know.
More important than that, there are actually things that if you are material, you can't give an accounting of. For example, you might not believe that you have free will. You might think that everything you do was predetermined from the beginning of the Big Bang. And just the fact, by the way, that all of the universe, physics tells us, came from something tinier than the head of a pin is, to me, there is no word other than miraculous for it, but nonetheless. You might believe that everything you did, our words tonight, the fact that those flowers would be orange on the table, that was all predetermined from the beginning of time. But if you believe that you actually make a choice, that human beings have free will, then I ask you how you account for that. You didn't pick your birth, your genetics, you didn't pick your environment. So from the very beginning, all of that was predetermined for you, and unless there is something immaterial about you that allows you to choose, then everything human beings do is already set from the beginning of time. I don't understand how you get free will if you don't have God.
First of all, Wolpe seems to think that naturalism necessitates determinism, which isn't the case. If it is the case that there are some undetermined events, that would perhaps mean that some events occur without efficient causes, but it in no way denotes the existence of the supernatural.
Christopher, it's pathetic, I'm sorry to say, to say of the cosmological and the genetic that these are deterministic processes. They're not at all. They're full of extraordinary randomness, and in the genetic case of mutation.
Secondly, even if there were some kind of immaterial soul which facilitates making free decisions, the existence of the soul would still not denote the existence of God.
Yes, there's randomness in the system. Nobody would argue that there isn't randomness in the system. But randomness isn't free will. Randomness is getting a result you don't expect. The question is, how do you get a directed choice, which isn't random? I choose right now to pick this glass up. Now, how did I make that choice? If I'm purely a product of my DNA and my environment, then it's not a choice.
Wolpe is another one of these guys who seems to think that free choices occupy some kind of middle ground between determinism and chance. I've never understood this. How can an event be neither determined nor chance? If he picked up the glass because he intended to, then his intentions determined the action and it wasn't free. Perhaps he would respond that the intention itself was free, but how can he be sure that the appearance of that intention wasn't a chance event, or an event unconsciously caused by the brain? There doesn't seem to be a way to distinguish between a thought or choice which arises freely, and one which either arises by some unconscious determining factor, or is simply a chance occurrence.
I have to say, to me, it doesn't seem a matter of religion that I can choose to pick up this glass. That seems to me to be well within what could develop purely scientific basis.
How?
I'm not a scientist, but it doesn't seem like a mystery of God.
That's exactly right, moderator guy.